Hey, I'm excited to chat with you guys today. Melissa coming to you again around celebrations, things that are showing up for Melissa, and really what we want to talk to you about today is the prep work and all the pieces that go together to be able to see actual tangible results for what she's been working on for so many years, right? A lot of times we get stuck in the things that are going sideways, the things that aren't working. And I am excited to death for her to share with you today around, okay, doing the work, this is what it looks like. And now this is how it's coming full circle. So excited. All right, my dear, can you share with everyone some of the big things that have been kind of breaking open for you in the last month, 2 weeks?
Sure. Well, I think I want to go back to even where you and I started, because I think it's always important for folks to understand, like, I know if people have been watching us, they know a little about our journey together. But when I started working with Melissa, it's been what, a year and a half now? Okay.
Something like
So
that.
yeah,
Mhm.
so and I had worked with some other folks before Melissa, and so but I loved your approach, and I felt like you were a very reasonable human. Sometimes you work with practitioners and they'd be like, we're going to put you in these 55 things. And I'm like, I'm going to die. Like, I'm just going to die. Like, that's so. But, I will say, like, I can certainly, I know I was malnourished, right? Like, even though I was
Yep.
eating, I wasn't absorbing nutrients.
Yep.
We discovered parasites, which I had a good inclination, and I had been told in the past that I had, but I know when I met you, I was like, oh, I did a parasite cleanse for like a month or something. And you were like, because that's not really long enough to get rid of these suckers. And gosh, I mean, we're finally ending, like, rounding my road with this, and it's been almost a year of just getting rid of them, right? So that's a long process for some folks. So if you're doing that, guys, don't panic. It's important, but it's not quick. And so, and then struggling with, like, kind of unexplained weight gain. That's where we started too, because I felt like, okay, I work out a lot. I don't eat a lot of things that are inflammatory. So that wasn't making sense. And so I was just really struggling. And then both of my businesses were, quite frankly, tanking, like nosediving. Um, One to the point where I really thought we were not going to be here. And actually, what's crazy, you guys, is 4 months ago, I was having a conversation with one of my assistants at my dance studio. For those who don't know, I have a dance studio here in Massachusetts. It's a conservatory, and then we also have a therapeutic track for children and young adults with special needs. And I was saying, I can't do this anymore. We're going to have to close if something doesn't change.
Girl.
And it makes me emotional to say
Oh,
now, which we're not in that space anymore. But the thought of that, as you can see, was like unacceptable, but I also could not take the stress.
yeah.
I owed my landlord at that point about $21,000 with no idea where that was going to come from, because, COVID took us from 75 kids to 15.
Mm-hmm.
We need at least 42 to break even on our bills.
Mm-hmm.
So for the last 3 years, I've been exercising and exhausting every single one of
Mm-hmm.
my assets, basically, to keep the doors open. Sure, there was, some grants and things here and there, but it was really on my back, right? And then it just got to the point where, there were no more incentives, no more anything.
Yeah.
And uh, as you can see, it was mounting. And so, as like a last pitch effort, our state had some cultural council grants they were offering.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I write a lot of grants.
Yeah.
And we get some, but not usually ones that are very sizable. But then all of a sudden,
Right.
I started to get emails about 3 separate grants from the state that were going to be enough to catch up with our landlord. And that was really a turning point. But what I need you all to understand is, like, the physical work I was doing
Mm-hmm.
helped make that happen for a couple of reasons, because all of a sudden I really believed we were going to get them.
Yeah.
Like, without a matter, like, I was like, we're getting these grants and that's it. And I firmly believe, like, I've been writing so many grants lately with such a different energy, like, we're going to get this grant. I'm actually shocked. Like, we got an email the other day from one, and they were like, we're sorry to inform you. And I was like, what? Why would they not give us a grant? But that's a shift in my mindset around,
Mhm.
like, well, of course people give us grants. We're doing great work, right? Um, and I think what I want to tie that into is just, if you guys, especially if there's parasites going on in your body, parasites have a massive impact on our mental health, right, Melissa?
Huge.
So, and our brain gut connection, which you and I talk about all the time, is so strong.
Yeah.
So if your gut is riddled with these little, suckers who are going to
Freeloaders.
take, yeah, freeloaders, exactly, squatters, who are taking your resources and your energy, you can't function well mentally. And so we've obviously been doing that work. Melissa rid me of SIBO, which I feel like that actually was pretty quick. Like, I feel like
That
we
was the
treated
easy
that.
one.
Yeah, that was the easy one. But what started to
Mm.
happen was, my gut started to heal. So as my body was healing, my brain started to function better, right? And my thought process started healing. And I think, sometimes we get it backwards. Like, you got to do the mindset work, you got to do the mindset work. And you do, you guys. It's not that that's not important. But if you're not doing the physiological work on top of it, you're not going to believe the mental shift.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to be a lot slower, And so for those of you who are in business, you're trying to hit certain goals, like, if anything, do that work together, or do the physical work and then focus on the mindset, because it's going to hit a lot different when you can actually receive it. So fast forward to now. So I have this idea. We're going to do this fundraiser for the studio because we are a 501c3, which means we're not for profit. So, okay, I set up this fundraiser and we have a phenomenal night. I mean, we raised $15,000 for the studio, which was crazy. But
I love that.
also, yeah, and had such a beautiful night. But then I got
Oh,
one of my friends who trains with my trainer also wrote us a check for $25,000 last week,
yes.
right? Then hold your seats, because the state invited me. I had to submit an application to submit this grant application, and they approved us to write a multi-million-dollar grant to buy a building and
The one that
renovate it.
you've been looking at and dreaming over.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
So, like, crazy, right? And so my husband and I,
no,
my
it's
husband's
not
really
crazy.
good.
It was already in
Well,
the
it is.
pipeline, girly.
Yeah, but it's crazy to think about, right? And I was like,
Mm.
you guys need, I was so sick about the grant in terms of, like, oh God, we got to sit down and write this. And so last Saturday, my husband and I sat down, we spent like 6 hours on this thing. He's a great grant writer, thank goodness, and a really good, like, cross checker for my work. And so we worked on it together because he knew I was just a little nervous about it. And we finished it. And then turns out we can't even submit it until May 1st, but it's done. Like, it's done. I've got letters of referral, all the things.
So
And then
good.
there's two other gentlemen that I train with, or that train with my trainer, who are also interested in making sizable donations to match towards the state grant. And so, but
Mm.
it's just crazy, right? That all this stuff is starting to come through, and I can see it. And what, it's interesting. In my mind's eye, I could see this stuff. I know we've talked about it, Melissa, but it was like it felt so far away, but also not far away, if that makes sense. It was like,
Completely.
what is this missing piece? And so, and listen, guys, I'm not saying like you do your gut work and all of a sudden, you're going to win the lottery or someone's going to write you a check. But for me, that's part of a bigger thing, right? Like, it's not like, oh, great, we got this check, our work's done. Like, no, like, what's starting to happen at the studio is it's starting to turn into what it's supposed to be, right?
Exactly.
So that I can
Yes.
truly embrace what, like, my real purpose is. And then it's also helping me to shift into, how do I want to work my other business in a different capacity? I spent 9 years building it face to face, which I love people, but I'm also like, all right, like, if I want to free up more time that I'm going to need, by the way, especially if we're moving into this massive facility, then I really got to leverage my time online. And how do I get better at that? Right.
Yeah.
So which has been cool. It's been challenging, but it's been cool to start learning more about, all right, how do I work social media more efficiently? What does that look like? But it's also the piece around like my confidence. And
Mhm.
I know you and I were just talking before we got on. So last week I had time. And so I decided to go through my closet and just purge and empty and all my drawers and just get rid of things that either I wasn't going to wear or things that didn't fit or whatever. And it was funny because even as I'm pulling out some of these shirts, some of them were like just these frumpy, like whatever shapeless shirts I used to wear,
Mhm.
even though, and part of it was I was going into homes, I was doing in-home therapy. So you kind of had to
Mhm.
wear things where you looked like, a box. But like, I'm like, I'm never going to wear this crap again, And so, not that it's crap, but it's like, I don't feel good in that clothing. Right. And so,
Mhm.
and not having attachment to like things that were no longer going to fit me.
Mhm.
Because, but
How
reminding
huge is
myself they
that?
don't, right. But reminding myself that they don't fit because I put on so much muscle and I'm so much healthier now.
Mhm.
I mean, I used to, so to give you guys an idea of my training patterns. So I used to try to be like working out, but inevitably what would happen is I would get so sick that
Mhm.
I would then be out for like a month.
Mm.
So I might have 2 or 3 months where I could work out fairly consistently, but then I would get knocked down.
Mhm.
And I mean, I was like so freaking skinny, right? And like my hair wasn't growing and my nails didn't grow and like whatever, and like
Oh,
dark
girl.
circles under my eyes, all the fun things. But like, I could never get into a space where I was like gaining healthy weight because I would constantly get knocked down by a virus or something. And even, like I had
Mhm.
a couple viruses this winter, but like I started to feel this fight in me. Like,
Mhm.
okay, like I can just have a cold. Like I used to never just get a cold and be able to work through it. If
Mhm.
I got a cold, it inevitably turned into a sinus infection, which meant I was in bed for 3 to 4 days. Like that was the cycle for my whole life, you know? And so, and how can you really do great things if like that's the cycle?
Yeah.
And what I've also realized, Melissa, like I know I shared with you and I'll
Mm.
share with your audience, like I'm rebuilding my other business too now, but it's like I've achieved things, a lot of things in that business, to be honest, but they
Mhm.
never felt like
Mm.
they probably should have.
Mm.
And I'm so excited to see what happens now because I have such a different appreciation for me
Mhm.
and for the work I do.
Mhm.
And I feel like even just like I took that day last week and I went, got
Mhm.
myself a massage and a facial and whatever. And I had such a nice day, but I just really enjoyed it. I was so present,
Yeah.
which, historically I would have been in my head about like, I need to follow up with this person, that person, whatever. And I was just like, it's
Mhm.
okay. Like I'm going to take this time to rest. So I think that's a big thing that comes with this work too,
Yeah.
is learning how to rest for real.
Truly.
Right. Um, and I think it's helping me to figure out too, like, all right, how do I build in those moments even when the weeks are hectic?
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
like, okay, like I'm so excited. I shared with Melissa too that I got an award from our town for the work I'm doing with these kids in the community, which is incredible. And you guys, you have to understand, I've been doing this work for 14 years. It's not like this is something new,
Mhm.
but all of a sudden it's like I'm okay with being seen for real. Right. So we get this award and I'm psyched because
Oh.
it was so nice for someone to nominate me for that. But for me, I'm like, great, that keeps putting the studio on the map. It keeps putting us, in front of people, um, so they can know the good work we're doing. And even, one of the organizations we have gotten grants from historically, and the woman who runs it lives, I mean, I could walk to her house, super sweet woman. And she'd come to our event. And when we shared this beautiful video that was, interviews of parents and whatever, and myself talking, she came up to me afterwards and she was like, I feel like you're our community's best kept secret, but I don't want you to be a secret. And I was like, this is exactly what we needed, was just to get word out about who we are and what we do, right? So because what we do is special.
It is.
And I'm no longer, again, kind of like, oh, well, we help these kids. No, like, we're equipped to help them. There's nice people out there that maybe want to run these classes, but they're not credentialed. They don't really know what they're doing. And unfortunately, with certain populations, that can cause damage, right? So, I mean, it's kind of like if someone just was like, oh, I'm going to help you with your parasite cleanse, but they have no clue what they're doing.
Right. Or here, have a probiotic, and
Yeah,
just
take
like
this.
takes everything the wrong way.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think, there's just all these pieces, but what I want everyone to understand is, what's been happening is, as my gut health has improved, my physical health has improved, my mental health has vastly improved, and then my boundaries with people have improved. You know, what I'm willing to say yes and no to, like,
Exactly.
I really think about how I used to work. I'm still a hard worker, but I would push myself to the limit.
Mm.
And now I'm like, okay, if we have to do that for a week or two because we've got something going on, but how are we going to recover from that? Um, so yeah, I think it's just, yeah, there's a lot of changes that have been made, right?
Yeah.
But it is showing up. And so, I don't, I don't love the word manifest, but I'll tell you why. Because of my belief system in God, right? I believe He puts a vision in our eyes. And if people don't believe that way, that's cool. I'm just sharing my thought process. So if He's put something in my mind, He's given me a goal, a thing, I know it's not because I made this thing up, right? I know that vision was put there for a reason. But also now He's like, I need you to figure out how you're going to get there. And I'm going to put people in your pathway. I'm going to help you to get it done. But, we're going to bring it to pass together. Right. And so, but this is the thing, you guys, is like, if you've got those kind of unboxed dreams,
Yeah.
you got to figure out, how am I going to become the version of myself that can actually fulfill that.
Exactly.
Right. And so I love Ed Milet. I think I've probably shared that with you before, Melissa, but I love his podcast. I love his books. He's just a really cool dude. He's a great entrepreneur, but he, was talking. He was at our conference last year, and I had heard him, talk about this, that when he gets to heaven one day, he wants to meet the version of himself that was supposed to be, and he wants that to match who he actually was exactly.
Oh, wow.
Right. And I remember years ago, I was listening to a sermon, and the preacher was talking about, like, when you get to heaven, there's all these boxes of these unfulfilled dreams and people's unmatched potential. And, I don't think that happens because, God doesn't love us enough to make those things happen, but we also have to do the work to get there, right? Like, He's not just going to hand us these things. It's like, you've got to become the version of that person. And again, I'm going to put people in your path to help you. But I want to see you do that work, because the skills we develop during that, right? Like, make the biggest difference. Like, a year ago, people, showing up with these checks and whatever, I would have panicked, but now I'm like, great. So that can go over there because we're going to put it towards this, and we're holding it for this. And then, okay, when this person gives us this much, we're going to do this. And all right, when the state gives us this is how we're going to set it up. Right. And so, but, rather than just like, oh my gosh, whatever. So I think that we help to kind of bring about the seeds that, He's planted in our mind's eye, and we move towards what that vision is, right? But I look at it like I'm locking arm in arms with my Creator, moving towards, like, really what He wants me to become. And so, but I do think we do have to visualize it. We do have to keep reinforcing that. And we do have to really clear away any of the clutter and weeds that's keeping us from that. And that can be biological things that are holding us back, then I think, and then there is obviously always going to be some emotional, mental stuff, but getting rid of some of the physiological stuff is going to help us better deal with those things. And I know, you and I met after a very traumatic incident in my life, and you've helped me a ton with that. And I look at that situation now as, even though it was challenging and there's still days where I'm sad about the outcome that is current, it's also a reminder of like, I don't know what else is going to happen there. And it also showed me a lot of things about myself, right? So, but I think the key is people have to realize you've got to be willing to do the work on all planes, because, if we're not really looking at the whole picture, you can be patching some of the holes in the wall, and it'll buy you some time, right? Like you go, like, for sure you can make some progress, but I think if you're not really doing the deep internal work, it's not really going to stay. I think that's the thing too, is I no longer have this fear of sliding back. Right? Like, it's just like, no, like, I'm just going to keep getting stronger. And then, the cool news, and I know we were talking about this too, is like, my body is like leveling off, and starting to feel and look like the way I wanted it to. And, but I have a very different appreciation for it too. I have to say that. But it's all the pieces, you guys, so if anyone's sitting here and you're like, I don't know, just like you said, when it's going sideways, right? I mean, there were so many mornings I was waking up having panic attacks, feeling like I was having a heart attack, really. But I just had to say, okay, but what do I need to do today? How do I put one foot in front of the other, right?
Yep.
And I would remind myself that I was okay right now. Like, I was doing everything in my power to change it. That's the other thing, you guys, if you're sitting in it and letting it swirl around you, nothing is going to happen there, right? You have to be like, what are the things that I can do to start changing this? And then, they will, but I also, I have a sign in my office that it's just 5 candles, and it says faith. So one letter on each candle. And it's cute. It like lights up, the little batteries in it. But, but I will say, even my mom once had said, like, you're really good at that.
Yeah.
And as you know, she doesn't always recognize some of those things, but I just really believe, you guys, like, if that has been put in your mind's eye and you see it, there is a reason why. And you have got to do everything in your power to try to get to that place, right? And doesn't mean that's not going to be a little messy, right?
Yeah.
But I think, you and I, man, like, we have these crazy health stories and, physical trauma that's happened. And it's like, all right, I feel like for us to overcome things like that, we have to have a big purpose.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I think anyone watching this, you have big purpose too. You've got to decide what you're going to do to fight to fulfill that,
So proud of you, girl.
And thank you, my friend, for the massive amounts of love and support and knowledge and direction and everything. Because you want to talk, like, what a God wink, right? You and I connecting on Facebook out of how many billions of people are on that platform. Right? And then, you being like, I'd love to just connect with you and see what you're about. And then look at all the cool things coming from that.
Here we are.
Yeah. And I'm excited to see what else. I mean, it's like, but I'm just really grateful. But I think that's the thing too, right? It's just, having gratitude, even when things are hard, there's always something to be grateful for. And then figuring out what else we want to do. But yeah. But we have to do the work on all fronts, and I think that's the biggest thing. But yeah, and you've had a front row seat because we meet so often. And I remember, like, probably a month ago, you being like, I can see it on your face, right? And And it's true. Like, I know that the stress coming off, and it's not, I mean, here's the thing, you guys, I used to tell myself, like, if someone showed up and handed me like a big check for the studio, like all would be fixed, right? But what's wild is, I was in that contest a few months back, right? And the prize was $40,000.
Yeah.
Well, if you do the math between the 15,000 we raised and that additional 25,000, God just sent it a different way, right? So, but as you know, I also put everything I had into trying to win that thing. And what it did do, what I will say was cool about that even, was I had so many people messaging me saying, and I thought this was so silly because, not silly, like so many people that were in that would share sometimes in like the forum, like, oh, none of my friends are support. I'm like, what? Like, I had nothing but support during that process, which just shows me I have amazing people around me. But I had so many people reaching out being like, I'm just really proud of you because you were so bold about that and you were putting it out there. And what it did do was raise a lot of awareness about the studio and what we were doing. And it was kind of my first step in like not being afraid to be seen, right? And yeah, so when I look at that, it seems like, oh, that's kind of random, whatever. Like, and lots of people were, doing that contest to do whatever with the money. But I was like, I'm willing to put my gloves on and fight for my kids, right? And so so it's cool. Like, and then I realized the other day, I was like, wait, we got the money. It just came a different, right?
Exactly.
So yeah.
Girl.
But I know I'm rambling here, Melissa, but I don't know. Like I said, it's so many levels of stuff, right? Like, I think when people, we also have to have respect for our journey. Like in my network marketing biz, I have so many friends who went quick, right? Like top of the company, they've been there, incredible humans. And I would always be like, how did that happen? But that was their journey, and that doesn't mean there haven't been lessons. But I also have to have respect for my journey. And, we don't always like the timeline, right? But, but I love the quote that like, sometimes God's holding you back for a reason so he can clear the way, right? And so and I think that's true, and I think you and I are both living examples of that, so yeah. But if you guys have ever considered working with Melissa, please do. Please do, because what you do, Melissa, I get emotional, but you support people so fully where they're at. And what I just remember when I first met you and you were like, I want people to get better. Like, I don't want you to be my patient forever. And I love that because I think, unfortunately, in some spaces, and I'm not, but I think sometimes people just think, am I ever going to heal? Am I ever going to start to feel better? And, the answer, if you're working with this woman, is yes, because she wants you to get to that point. Because the cool part is when we get to places, we can start to pull others up, right?
Exactly.
And gosh, I mean, I've referred so many people to you because I want them to feel better.
Yeah.
And so, great. As I keep improving and, my health doesn't mean at some point I'm not like, hey, I need you to fix this thing. But I'm bringing you other people who have acute things going on that need help. And, I know you said before, like the best compliment is the referrals, right? So,
huge for me.
But yeah, I mean, thank you so much because I mean, when I think about our first meeting, whoo, you guys, I just cried. And not like tears of gratitude that are kicking up right now, like really sad, stressed out tears. But
look what has come. What has come for you?
Yeah. And it's so cool to think of what else is coming, right? I'm like, man, we're just starting. Like, I feel like all this stuff is just like, we're just really getting rocking here. And I'm excited to see what happens next. But I think it's so cool, you guys. And Melissa, what, is cool is you are always in complete alignment with my homeopaths, who I also love. And it's so funny because it's like whatever I'm working on with you, totally
It
coincides with what
dovetails.
Jerry and I talk about. And, you know,
Mhm.
and you guys don't know each other, although you probably should. And so,
Yeah.
but it's so cool to me that when you find the right people, it's like everybody's working towards this greater thing. But yeah, it's powerful, you guys. So do the physical work though. Like the best thing you will never regret is healing your gut and doing that,
So much.
right?
So
I
much.
don't think people really get how much it impacts. I know they don't. And it makes me sad because, you know,
Mhm.
man, we're so
Mhm.
aware of every single thing we eat and whatever in this house, right? Like,
Yep.
but I'm like, man, like, I'm not gonna say that that was always the case, right?
Yeah.
But it's really when you really dial into it, you realize, man, like, if we're not paying attention to that stuff, I mean, really, when you think about it, it's like all these fast food places should be outlawed, right? Like, they're just destroying people's gut lining. And therefore their lives,
Oh,
right? Like
yeah.
that sounds dramatic, but it's like, you know, if people are eating McDonald's every day, it's not good for your mental health.
No. Or any other
Yeah,
part of your health.
I was like, or like even Dunkin' Donuts. Gosh, it's like, you know, like, and I'm not crapping on these places, you guys. It's just like there's so much hidden junk in those things. And you
Yeah.
could make something that tastes so much better that actually fuels you at home
Yeah.
and your body will thank you.
Yeah. Oh, so many times over.
Yeah. Yeah. But thanks,
Oh,
Melissa. You're
thanks
awesome.
for
Honestly,
sharing.
you
Oh my
saved
goodness.
my life. I say
Oh,
that with no, like, that's not even like amplified. Like, you genuinely did. Like,
oh,
you
thank you.
know, the amount of times a week that I send this woman's info to people, and not everyone maybe reaches out, but it's funny. Like, I had someone reach out the other day about parasites, and I was like, you gotta talk to my friend Melissa because
Yeah.
like, do not go buy some shoddy cleanse online. Like, it's not gonna do the same job, and you gotta do this. And
Yeah.
you know, yeah. But people don't realize, yeah, how much it's gonna change everything, right?
Yeah. Oh, I am just celebrating you so much
Thank you, my
because
friend.
it's been my gift to watch. It's almost like a butterfly just going like this.
You
Thank
just
you
wait,
for
my
letting
friend.
me
We're
a
just
part of
getting
that.
warmed up now. We're just
I
getting
know,
warmed
right? Let
up.
those wings go.
No, but it's
Ah,
cool. You know, I just think of how some of the dark places that I've been mentally, you know,
yeah,
and I'm like, man,
yeah,
that seems so far away. Thank God, you know,
yeah.
but it
Mm,
really, you know, and I mean, you know, I work in the mental health industry, so it's so frustrating to me that
yeah,
more mental health providers aren't talking about all of this, right? They
exactly.
want to medicate, they want to do the quick thing. It's like, can't we just have a conversation with people about what they're eating? Like, how are they taking care of gut health?
Yep.
You know, I talk to pretty much all my clients about that. And, you know, my teenagers, of course, have no clue what I'm saying, but like all my adults, I do. And, you know, a lot of them start to get it, you know, and it's like, but I'm
Mhm.
trying to plant those seeds out, like, all right, like be really mindful of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Um, but it is frustrating when people are
Mhm.
not doing that.
Yeah. Oh, just celebrating you, my dear,
Thank you, my
so
friend.
very
Thank
much.
you. Yeah. But
Thank you for
we
giving.
want all this for you guys, you know, I think that's the cool thing, right? Like, I just always think, man, if everyone could operate from this, what a different world we'd have, right?
So much.
I think, you know, some of these younger people are struggling because their gut health is so bad.
Yeah. I love that. What a different place we could operate from in this world.
Yeah. But everyone's got their journey, right?
You. And it's
Yeah,
okay.
it's all good. Of
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Oh my goodness.
course, yeah. Apologize if I was
watching.
long-winded, you guys, but there's like so many parts to it. And I think it's easy to hear someone's like, oh, things are starting to feel really good and turn around. But, I think it's always helpful to hear where they started from. Ed Milet always says that we're best equipped
Mm-hmm.
to help people that are most like the former version of ourselves, right? And I think that's so true.
Yeah, it is. Mm,
Is what you're doing, my friend,
yeah. And you as well. You
Yep.
as well.
Yep.
Oh, girl. Thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you, Melissa.
Yeah.
And thank you guys. So yeah, if anyone has questions and I'm an open book. I think you guys know that by now, but if you have questions, you can always inbox me. I'll be happy to answer them.
Love it. Me as well. Awesome, you guys. Enjoy your day. And
Thanks, Melissa.
yeah, we'll be back
Next Monday.
next Monday. Yeah.
All
Take care.
right.